Number 2, economy. What plan do you have to create jobs and get people back to work? What are your views on increasing sales tax to recover revenue projections?
Taxation does not create jobs. I have a 4-point plan for creating jobs and stimulating the economy. 1, stop wasteful overseas spending. End foreign aid and stop empire building. The U.S. Constitution does not authorize Congress to build military bases all over the world, and certainly does not allow for millions of dollars of taxpayer money to be handed over to corrupt foreign government. 2, repeal suicide trade deals such as NAFTA and get the United States out of the World Trade Organization. These trade organizations represent hundreds of pages of regulations that put American businesses and American workers at a disadvantage and send millions of manufacturing jobs out of America. These trade deals are blatantly unconstitutional by allowing unelected bureaucrats and special interest groups to make laws in America. 3, stop inflation, inflating the currency and destroying the dollar. Congress has allowed the Federal Reserve to destroy the purchasing power of the dollar by over 95%, and they will continue this unconstitutional inflationary policy. Printing trillions of dollars out of thin air for unnecessary spending has disastrous consequences for American entrepreneurs and business owners. It's time to reconsider the wisdom of founding fathers and the U.S. Constitution and begin the transition back to sound money. 4, end corporate welfare. It is immoral for our U.S. representatives to force Hoosier families to pay for the mistakes by a misregulated banking system and incompetent Federal Reserve. The current economic system of bailing out politically well-connected corporations to the detriment of everyone else needs to end. Follow the Constitution.
Thank you so much. School vouchers, higher education funding. What measures will you take to change or continue global educational goals? How do you propose to enforce the states enforce teacher accountability?
Thanks, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. This is the largest crowd I've ever seen in this room, and it tells you exactly what's on the line in this election, so I appreciate you being here. As most of you know, I've been a state representative for 6 years, and I can tell you this, the federal government does not belong in education. It's the job of the states. The Supreme Court says it's the job of the states. The Constitution says it's the job of the states. And the state of Indiana has been involved in, just transitioning funding from the property tax levy to the K-12 to the general fund levy here in the state of Indiana. And let me tell you something. I mean, it started with George Bush. It was an egregious violation to have a federal mandate come in called No Child Left Behind with no funding. I'm married to a public school teacher. He's taught 16, almost 17 years now in South Bend and Mishawaka. And then we have President Barack Obama brings in his program as well. I'll tell you what's happened watching from the inside of government. Bureaucrats tie the hands of teachers, and then other organizations get in the way of what they can teach and what they're allowed to do. And then you have feds, unfunded mandates, you have the state weighing in on education because they're responsible for the K-12 funding, then you have local school boards. And the authority lies, folks, with the local school boards and the people that are closest to the decision making, and the teaching should be done by teachers, and that's where we're straight in this country. And I can tell you this, I lived in Eastern Europe for 4 years, and we have got to compete and ratchet up what we're doing with education and turn out the best students, provide the best teachers, and hold them accountable by having parents interact with them and having choices with charter schools, other options, and other alternatives. If you're in a failing system, you have to be able to make your own choice as a parent.
Thank you so much.
I served our great constitutional republic in both the U.S. Navy and the U.S. Air Force Reserves for over 10 years. I'm honored to have taken the oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And I wish to continue that service as your representative to the United States Congress. Throughout my military service, teamwork, attention to detail, diligence, and professionalism were required to defend our God-given rights of life, liberty, and property. I will work diligently as a teammate with other patriots, whether they are Democrats, Republicans, or Libertarians, to restore our great republic and bind an out-of-control government to the chains of the U.S. Constitution. It's not about party. It's about freedom. It's about our God-given rights. My experience as a healthcare professional and as a college student has allowed me unique experience with the out-of-control costs in education and healthcare. Politicians use healthcare and education as a tool to buy your vote with your money. And the results are increased corruption, less freedom, and higher prices. If elected, I will support sound money, constitutional government, free markets, a non-interventionist foreign policy, and personal liberty. I will never vote for legislation which violates the U.S. Constitution and surrenders our freedom, compromises our security, demoralizes our citizens, or unnecessarily endangers our brave men and women in uniform. We must stop the wasteful overseas spending, bring jobs back into this country by repealing NAFTA and getting the U.S. out of the World Trade Organization, stop inflating the currency, stop the corporate welfare, and get the federal government out of health care and stop providing taxpayer-funded benefits to illegal aliens. It is time to follow the U.S. Constitution, allow the free markets to work, and put Americans first. All Americans should be allowed to keep the fruits of their labor for their benefit and their children.
Okay.
Less government and more freedom is the answer.
Thank you so much.
Again, I appreciate you being here tonight, and I just want to tell you this. There is a decision being made on November 2nd that completely will determine the course of this country for probably the rest of my generations and yours as well. We have an opportunity on November 2nd to really put people back to work, to take the regulations and the mandates off of private business and private enterprise and let them hire. We have an opportunity to freeze and cut spending at the federal level and actually have a balanced budget. We have a Congress right now that is so irresponsible. They adjourned last week without even balancing a budget or voting on a budget, and they walked out there without extending tax cuts. I'm telling you right now, there should not be one tax increase in this country. Every penny that is available to stay in your pocket, in a small business pocket, in a family's pocket, has to be for us to turn this economy around. We are looking at $14 trillion of debt in this nation, ready to overtake the entire GDP of our country. We stood here tonight and we pledged allegiance to a flag where there was blood shed for this nation. The red stripes on that flag represent who we are as Americans, the individual destiny that we have and that we're in charge of, not a bunch of bureaucrats at any level of government, especially Washington, who have been arrogant about taking the direction of our country. And as 70% of our country is saying, don't you dare pull us into a gigantic healthcare system, they did it, and they did it boldly, and Joe Donnelly stood right there with them, and 88% of the time voted with Nancy Pelosi and Barack Obama, and then he has the audacity to get on TV and say he's an independent. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, we need to stand together for another 28 days, stand and boldly look these folks in the eye and remind them that we're the Americans that run this country, we are the taxpayers and voters, we believe that that flag is not only worth fighting for, but we are not going to allow somebody to redefine this country out from underneath us on November 2nd. Stand with me, and I'm telling you, when you look at your kids and their generation, you can say to them, I was there that day, I made a difference, I stopped that freight train, we defunded that health care bill before the taxes came in and decimated our economy. God bless you, God bless this country.